When I think about what true success is, I realize how much that has changed in my life over the last number of years. I so vividly remember defining success through primarily the fruit of our hands and the work that we would do and the success we would achieve. And it's not long before you realize that many of those indicators are completely out of our control. They're circumstantial. In some seasons of our lives, we're able to accomplish more or feel more efficient or feel more productive or successful. In other seasons of our lives, we feel like we're able to take very little ground, or we feel like we might not be as productive or successful. And it was a number of years ago in my own life where the Lord began to redefine success to me. And I found in that season, and I've found in these last years, that success is primarily defined in my intimate, close relationship with Jesus. It's the one thing that circumstances can't touch. It's something that nobody else can take from us. It's something that no season of life can take away from us. It's something that no sickness, no circumstance, nor other person can take from us, because it exists between us and the Lord. Intimacy is our highest definition of success. At the end of the day, when we stand before the Lord, of course it will be the fruit. It will be the disciples we've made and those lives that we've impacted, but it will most of all be the nearness that we've walked in with Him. And out of that nearness, the obedience we've walked in, the friendship that's been fostered. I want to give you several paradigms to consider in this definition of success. Is that number one, growing in the knowledge of God is success. Number two is that essentially we can be as close as we want to be. In this first paradigm, I'd like to take you to a couple scriptures that would be familiar to many of us. Ephesians chapter 1, verse 17, where Paul is praying for the church in Ephesus. And he says here, "I'm asking that the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the glorious Father, would give you a spirit of wisdom and revelation so that you may know Him better. I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened in order that you may know the hope to which He has called you, the riches of His glorious inheritance that is in His holy people, and His incomparably great power for us who believe." Paul is praying for the church of Ephesus that they would grow in the spirit of wisdom and revelation. Why? So that they would know Christ. And you think of all the things that Paul could have prayed for, and you find this pattern in all of his prayers, is that he chooses to pray that we would grow in the knowledge, which to a Jew was not just academic knowledge, but it was experiential knowledge. To know someone was not just to know about them, it was to be intimately acquainted with them. It was to know their personality. It was to know their character. It was to know their habits. So when he's praying here that we would know Christ, that we would have a spirit of wisdom and revelation to know Christ, he's praying that we would be intimately acquainted with Him. We would know the personality of Jesus. We would know the character of Jesus. We would know what He thinks and how he acts and what He is like. And this becomes a central point, essentially, in all of Paul's prayers, because we believe that he essentially did this and believed this because everything else is an overflow of an intimate relationship with Jesus. I want to take you to another passage in Ephesians chapter 3, where he prays again for the church in Ephesus, and he says, "For this reason I kneel before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth derives its name. I pray that out of His glorious riches He may strengthen you with power through His Spirit in your inner being." Why? So that Christ may dwell in your heart through faith. And then listen to this. "I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power together with all the Lord's holy people to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God." And again, Paul links here that we would know God and Jesus beyond knowledge, again, beyond just academic understanding, but that we would experience in Him and we would know Him. Why? So that we would be filled to the full measure of God. So many believers are pursuing different expressions of success. Climb a ladder, certain amount of fruit, notoriety, Facebook followers, Instagram likes, and at times we can equate our success in the kingdom with these external measurements, but at the end of the day, how much do we know Him? How closely are we walking with Him? How is our experiential relationship with Jesus? Are we walking in a love that is all of our hearts, all of our souls, all of our minds, and all of our strengths? The first paradigm is this: your nearness is your success. The second paradigm flows from this passage as well, where Paul is essentially saying that I pray that you, together with all the saints, would have power to grasp the height, the depth, the width, and the length of the love of Christ, to know this love that surpasses knowledge. To me, this says you can have as much as you want, and you can be as close as you want to. As near as you desire to be to Jesus, you can be. As much of His heart and mind that you desire, you can have. And I think for far too long, we've possibly lived in a comparative Christian life where we feel like maybe if we're a little more hungry or a little more in love with Jesus than someone else, then we're doing great. And we can always find someone who's maybe a little more passive or a little more apathetic. But the measure is not me against someone else or how much my youth pastor or this great speaker knows Jesus. The measure is this: how much can I have of Him? How much can I know of Him? There's no ceiling on walking in this friendship with Jesus. I was thinking about the obstacles that often hold us back from true success found in intimacy. And I want to give you 3 things to consider that we would work at overcoming as believers. Number 1, I think that busyness becomes an obstacle to walking with God. If I were to place any person in front of you and say, hey, your main job is to get to know this person and develop friendship, every one of us would immediately know that there are actions that must be pursued in order to walk in that. We would immediately put together a list of things. Let's go out for lunch. Let's go on a hike together. Let's get some dinners together. Let's get our families together. We would immediately know that there is action required to create that friendship, and we would make time in our lives to create that friendship. It's the same way with the Lord. Sounds so simple, yet so often the greatest answers we're looking for are so simple. And it's that simple, is to overcome the obstacle of busyness. Are we making time in our life for God, the greatest friendship that we could ever cultivate? Are we going to look back on our lives and go, man, I gave myself to all these things, but I didn't actually cultivate a deep friendship with Jesus? Or can we, in this season of our lives right now and for the rest of our lives, prioritize the friendship above all friendships? Prioritize time with Him, time talking to Him, time worshiping Him, time obeying Him, time just interacting with Him, conversations throughout the day. You think of the person that you love the most, and you stop in your day and you send them a text message. You stop in your day and go, I'm thinking about you today. God loves those moments where we're driving in our truck and we just go, I just love you. He loves those moments where we escape from the crowd and we just go into a corner for a moment, or we just sit back in a chair, or we find a little space where no one else is, and I just want to tell you how much I love you right now. But we also create times in our mornings or our evenings where we get away, where we can have deep dialogue with God, where we can spend time lingering in His presence. The second obstacle I think that often robs us of true success found in intimacy with Jesus is distraction. It's just that not only are we busy in lives, but at times like Mary and Martha, where it wasn't just that Martha was busy, it was that she was distracted. She could have been serving Jesus, but still in touch with His heart. She could have been still preparing the meal, but had a listening ear to what Jesus was saying. And in fact, if you dive deeper into the word that Jesus uses of Martha to say she is worried and distracted about many things, you'll find that it says literally that her body was present, but her spirit was absent. Her emotions were disconnected from Jesus. So it's not just about carving out time in the midst of busy lives. It's that our hearts would be connected and our emotions would be connected to Him, and that we wouldn't be living a distracted life where our mind is caught up with so many other things that we don't have space to connect emotionally and to connect our minds with Jesus. The third obstacle that I've found many times in my own life and many believers is sometimes we just lack hunger. And my prayer would be that even through this conversation and even through highlighting some of these scriptures is that hunger would begin to rise up in your hearts. You've all thought of times where someone mentioned a food, maybe your favorite food, and as soon as they said it, your saliva glands began to water. You just began to immediately crave that food, whatever it was, because it was your favorite. And my prayer is that even as we discuss this and as we talk about these prayers of Paul, that our spiritual saliva glands would be activated and we find ourselves hungering for more of God, and that spiritual hunger would lead us forward into true success, which is found in intimacy, closeness, and friendship with Jesus. The last thing I'll leave you with in these paradigms that we're talking about I would encourage you to take account of your life right now and to consider resetting some priorities. Is there a reset that needs to occur in your time and the way it's spent right now? Is there a reset that needs to occur in your distraction or what you're thinking about in your life right now? Is there a reset that needs to occur that would cause your spiritual appetite to hunger for God again? We will never regret taking times in our life where we kind of look at our lives, take a step back, and evaluate, are we living according to a true definition of success? Or at times, are we filling time running around our lives, in our lives in crazy busy schedules? Or are we prioritizing the thing we're going to be most proud of 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road? So the paradigms are this. Intimacy with Jesus is true success. And the second paradigm is this: you can have as much as you want. The kingdom and His heart are available 24/7 to continually dive deeper into who God is and into walking in closeness with Him.